terrible, disgusting, garbage, no ball knowledge. Boys, what's going on? We're back with Premier League predictions. Those are the descriptive words I would use for my match week 5 predictions. Looking at the matches here, if you look in the red, those were my predictions. The white was the actual score lines. It's tough to say where it all fell apart, right? So the Man City Arsenal game, I had 2-0. It ends 2-2. If you watch the match, I can't say it was a really great, really that good of a prediction. Arsenal were about that life. Crystal Palace, Man United, that ends 0-0. There's not much I can do about a 0-0. I thought Palace would get the result. I thought they'd even get the win, but no goals is no goals. Nothing I can do about that. Aston Villa Wolves ends 3-1. I had 2-0. I'll consider that. I mean, for how the week went, I'll consider that a win. Fulham Newcastle. This match, I think, out of all of them, this one pissed me off the second the most because I legitimately thought 1-1 was like a great prediction. I thought the back end could have ended 2-2. I thought maybe a 2-2 could have ruined me. But 3-1 Fulham. Like, I think Fulham and Newcastle so far this season are going to be one of the more trickier teams for me to predict. I feel like there's just no consistency with either of those teams throughout the season so far. Leicester Everton, I had 1-0. It ends 1-1. That is my most annoyed prediction. Again, Everton, they're up there too with teams that are just impossible to figure out. They were winning 1-0 in this match to start, and then Leicester ended up, equalizing later. So 1-1 there. Liverpool Bournemouth, just like the Aston Villa match, I'll consider a 2-1 a win. I'm a bit surprised Bournemouth couldn't score, but it wouldn't have been a correct score regardless. Southampton Ipswich, another game I predict 1-0 that ends 1-1. This is where the frustration started to creep up, right? Multiple 1-0 games I predicted and 1-1. It's just garbage. It's just garbage. Tottenham, Brentford, like the other two matches, it ends 3-1. I had 2-1. Tottenham late goal ruined the exact score, so a bit brutal, but with how the week went, I'll take any wins where I can. And then West Ham, Chelsea, I think I want to say worst prediction because that was one of those predictions where I was thinking 7:30 in the morning, a shocker result. Not scoring at home is always just an embarrassing thing for me. Like, if you don't score at home, I don't know what I can do to trust you. So West Ham don't score at home. They lose 3-0. I had the 2-1 there. And I mean, overall, very garbage week. That was tough. We're going to have to forget about it. I don't know if I'm going to really change the process of how I make the predictions, but a lot to look over, a lot to look at here. And as you can see right below, we finished 491st out of 532 people. So, I mean, garbage. We're going to have a short memory and move on to match week 6, boys. So let's get after it. If you guys aren't already, I would really appreciate if you like the video, subscribe to the channel. We just eclipsed 3,000 subscribers. I was going over the analytics and I did see that there are at least 70% of you who watch the videos that are not subscribed, and I would just massively appreciate if you guys would go ahead and click that subscribe button. All right, so Newcastle and Manchester City, a little bit different from the last video where I kind of made my predictions, had my bullet points ready to go, and then I made the correct score prediction. In this video, I'm going to literally make the prediction as I do the research with the odds and the previous head-to-head. So Newcastle, Manchester City here. I see Manchester City is 1.6, which is a decent amount of respect for Newcastle here. If I scroll to the head-to-heads here, we can see what Newcastle's form looks like. 2-3 to City, 1-0 Newcastle, 3-3 draw, 4-0 City, and 3-4. Just looking at these head-to-heads here, pretty crazy to see some of the score lines. Newcastle has gotten a result twice in the last 5 matches. Crazy amount of goals in the 2 matches that Newcastle did not get a result in even. So we're seeing 1.53 for the both teams to score, with the total sitting at about, what is it? Looks like at about 3.25 at about 3. Kind of a crazy one here. Looking at this now, the initial thought for me was 2-1 to Manchester City. Maybe a 3-1 if it's one of those crazier games, maybe 3-1. So I'm going back and forth in my head here between 3-1 and 2-1, and I think I'm going to go ahead and lock in Manchester City to beat Newcastle 2-1. Arsenal and Leicester City. We see Arsenal at 1.18 at home. I highly doubt Leicester can get the result here. If you're Arsenal and you're going up against a team like Manchester City for the title, all these games have to be won with ease. They really do, right? So I cannot imagine Leicester getting anything out of this. We'll use the main total line here at 3.5, and then the both teams to score market is sitting at 2.2. I really don't see Leicester scoring. I feel like after conceding 2 to Manchester City, they return home against a way weaker opponent. I just want to see one thing here. Arsenal at home versus Leicester. We're seeing a 4-2 result, a 2-0 result, 1-0 to Leicester. This was back in 2020 though, it's COVID times. So with these last 2 results here, it was pretty evident that Arsenal were just straight up a better team. I don't think I'm going to do too much yapping on this one. I'm just going to go with a simple 3-0 Arsenal win. Moving along here, we have Brentford and West Ham, where Brentford is actually given a decent amount of respect at 2.15, which actually did drop from 2.6. So we do see Brentford getting more respect over West Ham here, and West Ham are coming off that awful loss to Chelsea at home. They're both coming off L's here. Recent form shows West Ham have won, Brentford have won, West Ham, Brentford. Well, in the last 3 matches at least, the home team has won, with Brentford being 2 of those. So let's go ahead and check the total here to see what the books are kind of projecting this match to be. Looks like about a 3 total. Looks like it's about sitting at a 3 total here. Both teams' scores at 1.57. Oh man, this is giving me those 1-1 vibes on initial thoughts, because with Brentford's odds coming down, people are probably pretty low on West Ham after getting kind of handled by Chelsea at home. I still don't think Brentford get the win here. That's kind of where my brain is at with it. I really do feel like West Ham either win or get the draw, but I think for the sake of the prediction, I'm going to stick with a 1-1 Brentford-West Ham draw. Chelsea and Brighton. We see Chelsea sitting here at 1.7 on the money line, which seems about accurate. Brighton sitting at 4.33. I think the total is about 3.25, 3 to 3.25. I'm assuming it'll probably even drop even more. I think it'll get closer to 3.5 by game time. People are going to be on the over for this one, I would imagine. Both teams to score, unsurprisingly, sitting at 1.53. I have no issues with that. The head-to-heads, we have Chelsea in decent form, right? They beat Bournemouth 1-0. They beat West Ham 3-0. So that's 2 clean sheets for the defense, something to think about. And in Brighton's last 2 matches, they've had 4 goals and no goals. Brighton have had a really good result against Arsenal as well. Kind of makes this a bit trickier to think about. So recently, Chelsea have beaten Brighton 2-1. Chelsea have beaten them 3-2. Chelsea have won 1-0. In the last 2 matches here, we have seen Chelsea get the result in both of them, with both teams scoring and the game being decided by 1 goal. So Chelsea at home here, the last time they dropped points to Brighton was actually a loss in which Brighton did win 2-1, and the time before that, they drew 1-1 as well. Now, this one's, there's a lot of ways you can go with this. Do you think basically the number one question for this match will end up being, do we think Brighton get the result? Yes or no? I'm going to go with yes. I do think Brighton get the result, and I'm actually going to go with a spicy 2-2 draw in the Chelsea and Brighton match. Everton and Crystal Palace. Oh my God. If you've been watching the videos from the beginning, then you know how I feel about Everton and Crystal Palace as standalone teams. They are both, for me at least, they have both been impossible to predict. I have not been able to gauge, figure out, or understand how either of them play. You have Everton, who decide they want to score a couple goals first and concede a bunch of goals and end up losing the match. And then you have Crystal Palace here, who decide they want to play against the level of their opponent, right? They'll end up losing to Brentford, they'll end up losing to West Ham, and they'll somehow draw Chelsea and Man United. I have no idea how to approach this game, where to attack this match. Even the odds are confused. You would think just on paper, Crystal Palace should be way more of a favorite than 2.5 here compared to Everton's 2.7, but it's just not the case, right? At Everton at home, it hasn't been good. Crystal Palace away from home, it's been all right, right? They've just been all right. They lost to Brentford, they drew Chelsea. That's all we have so far. I guess looking at the head-to-head here, we've seen 1-1, 1-0, 3-0, 3-2, 1-1. So these last 5 matches here, they don't really paint a picture, because Everton beating them twice at home doesn't seem like that's something to expect in this match here. It's a tough one for me. This may be probably the toughest match, because I want to predict Crystal Palace to win. I want to believe they can go into Everton and get this done. But on the other hand here, I do think these odds kind of tell me a different story. The odds are kind of telling me a different story here. Both teams' scores at 1.67. I'm going back and forth heavily here on a 1-1, a 2-1, or a 2-1 for Everton, which is not normal, right? That's basically me predicting all 3 outcomes, which lets you know this one's extremely difficult here. The way the odds are set up and the way people think about Everton, I'm going to go against the grain, crazy enough, and I'm going to predict Everton to beat Crystal Palace 2-1. They seem to play to their opponent's level, and I think that eventually will come back to bite you, right? Some people would think it's good to play to your opponent's level, right? You can play the top teams well, but I think this is one of those matches where if you continue to play to your opponent's level, you end up getting caught. So I'm going to go with Everton to beat Crystal Palace 2-1. Nottingham Forest and Fulham. We have Nottingham Forest here sitting at 2.35 on the money line. Fulham's at 3. The total was kind of surprising to me. It's at 2.5, which is pretty low for Prem standards here. Although I will say, when I first saw this game, 1-1 was the initial thing that came to my mind until I saw the both teams' score market, which is sitting at 1.8. 1.8 kind of implies that they're kind of unsure about both teams scoring, right? And I say that because if you remember the other matches, they're all sitting at about 1.5 to 1.6 odds. So 1.8 is a bit concerning with how I'd like to attack this match. I checked to see Nottingham Fulham's head-to-head results here when Nottingham was at home, and we did see last year towards the end of the year Nottingham did beat them 3-1. And then overall here we have Fulham beat them 5-0 and Nottingham beat them 3-1. So two results that don't really help us make a decision for this one. I was feeling 1-1, and I think I'm going to stick with 1-1. If Nottingham wins this 2-0 or 2-1, I will be very disappointed, because there's something about Nottingham Forest odds being 2.35, considering they're coming off a 2-2 draw and Fulham is coming off a 3-1 win over Newcastle, right? That's where I'm surprised. A 3-1 win over Newcastle from Fulham gives them 3 odd away from home. I keep thinking that this could be a Nottingham Forest 2-1 win. And you know what? Last second change, I will go Nottingham Forest to beat Fulham 2-1. Wolves and Liverpool. I don't want to spend too much time on this one. Liverpool 1.36. They are coming off a pretty straightforward win against Bournemouth, a good win against AC Milan away from home. The odds are sitting at 1.36 for Liverpool, which I think is actually kind of interesting, because we see right here that Flash Score had them opening up at 1.53 and they dropped to 1.36, which is kind of interesting. Does that mean that they put respect on Wolves at home somewhat? Which would bring me to my next question of, what has Wolves done to Liverpool at home? They did not beat them last time they played. They lost 3-1. They did beat them 3-0 in 2023. They've only gotten 1 result in their last 4 matches in the Prem. But I will say some of these, 3 out of 4 of those matches were both teams to score no, and 2 of those matches were 1-0 to Liverpool. So I guess some things to think about. Liverpool away from home have been, as you can see, very solid, very solid here. And Wolves at home have been kind of back and forth, really. So I think looking at the total here would kind of, decide how many goals we're thinking in this match. It does bring me, I didn't want to give Wolves a goal, but seeing that both teams to score market at 1.7 is a bit more interesting, because I would have thought it would have been about 1.85, maybe 1.9, but they are giving some respect to Wolves to score at home here. So I think with that total and some of those away head-to-head matches, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Liverpool win over Wolves. Ipswich and Aston Villa. Right away, 1.83 away for Aston Villa money line is pretty insane. As you can see here, the odds opened at 1.67. They moved to 1.83. That makes no sense to me personally. I thought Aston Villa have been incredible so far this year, right? One thing that we can think about is that they have been conceding in all their matches except that Champions League one. We're not going to be able to use head-to-heads to really do anything for us, because Ipswich has been in the championship. Ipswich, I mean, they really haven't gotten anything going so far. They did draw Fulham, which was, I think, a very good draw for them, overall getting the point against Fulham. But they're probably going to need a lot more than that to stay above relegation this year. Aston Villa away from home, didn't even need to click it. We already know. So let's go to the odds here. So the over-under in this match is sitting at about 3, with the both teams' score line is about 1.67. I really can't imagine Ipswich scoring. Like, I could imagine it on like a crazy type of goal, but goals have been so hard for them to come by up until this point. The only match they didn't score at home so far was against Liverpool. They scored 1 against Fulham. This match is difficult because 1.83 Aston Villa is making me overthink the entire prediction here. But I'm going to stick with what I know, and I'm just going to go with a 2-0 Villa win here. I'm really struggling to think that this will be a 1-1 draw. I think the only way Ipswich gets this point is if it's a 0-0 draw. Because if you let Aston Villa score 1, depending on how this match is going, if Ipswich would have to score first and park for like the entire match to get a 1-1 result here, which is possible, very possible. But I'm in the camp that I think if Aston Villa gets 1 at any point, they're going to score more. So I'll keep it still underneath the total, but I'll go with a 2-0 Aston Villa win here. Manchester United and Tottenham. This looks like a very fun matchup on paper here. Immediately 2-2 comes to my mind without thinking about anything. We do see Manchester United getting the 2.3 money line here. Tottenham is 2.8. Both teams to score is 1.36, which will most likely be the lowest of the entire slate, I would imagine. And the regular total is sitting at about 3.5. So 2-2 really could be the type of match this goes to, right? And we have seen in the past, oh wow, I didn't even realize it was like that. We have seen 2 matches that ended with a 2-2 score line. So that's something to think about there. And another match that ended with a 3-2 score line. I wanted to look at Manchester United at home. I know Old Trafford's one of those stadiums that can, give teams problems. So let's see at home, how have Tottenham performed? So last match was 2-2, then it was 2-0 to United, 3-2 to United, 6-1 to Tottenham, and in 2019 it was 2-1 to Manchester United there. I actually am feeling a United win here. Now, people probably have all these reasons why it shouldn't happen. I mean, they're coming off a pretty bad, I would say, well, it depends, right? Depends on how you view the match. I think it's a bad result for United. I think it was, because I had projected United to be, you know, way better than they're playing right now. So 0-0 against Crystal Palace is not great for the campaign, but I think they have a rebound here. I think they should play a lot better at home. With their only losses so far, being Liverpool, you know, it can be safe to assume that United at home should be able to get something done here. I think I will go with a 2-1 Manchester United win over Tottenham. And we have the last match of match week 6, Bournemouth and Southampton. I'm a little surprised this is the last match of match week 6. I thought they usually put I figured the Tottenham Manchester United game would have been the last game, but either way, we are looking here and seeing 1.62 for Bournemouth to win. Southampton is 5 odds to win, which is quite high for Southampton. Both teams to score sitting at about 1.57, which is pretty expected here. The over-under we see is about 3.25, 3.5 maybe. So they're expecting goals here. They're expecting a decent amount of goals here. I just want to see Bournemouth at home has Southampton. Oh, wow. Southampton. What is this? I know it's a bit old and outdated, but I was not expecting Southampton to have 5 results in 5 matches in Bournemouth. Is this some bogey team for Bournemouth? I'm shocked, actually. Like, I did not prepare to look at that. So that's something to think about. Southampton away from home, nothing really to, you know, go off of. They lost to Brentford 3-1, and they lost to Newcastle 1-0. I will say the initial thing I was thinking about was 3-1 to Bournemouth, but that stat is crazy. The only question is, do I let that stat kind of sway how I go with this game? I'm going to say no. I feel like Bournemouth still get this win here. That's what I'm thinking. I think Bournemouth still get this win here. I think I'll go with a 3-1 Bournemouth win over Southampton. All right, boys, that concludes the Premier League predictions for match week 6. Again, if you haven't already subscribed and liked the video, I would really appreciate it if you do. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite prediction is for match week 6, or what the most surprising prediction you have for match week 6. I'll be looking at those. So I appreciate you, boys. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the match week 7 predictions.